All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for a few real people out there, just like you, just like me. All right, I've got a really interesting video here. Maybe, who knows? Probably for some, but then some people are going to be mad at me. Here's Mitch Malloy. He's not mad at me. He sent me an autographed copy of his brand new album called The Last Song, currently airing over on that great radio station I've been talking about called Modern Retro Radio, modernretrofm.com. There's Mitch. I don't understand why the guy doesn't age. There he is in the middle, looking like he's 27 years old. So, I don't know. Health tips from Mitch Malloy. Mitch Malloy's Fountain of Youth, the new serum that can turn back the clock. Great music, by the way. I talked a lot about other stuff, but this is a great album. This is how you make a rock album, people, from start to finish. We're going to be talking about bands, though, that have maybe, overstayed their welcome. Dee Snider the other day, who I'm starting to like a little bit again. I did not like his takes during the pandemic, okay? Just saying. He was public enemy number 3, I think, for me. But he's been saying some interesting things lately, and he's stuck to his guns when it comes to the craziness of the culture war. And the other day, he was talking about how there are too many bands that are doing too many farewell tours that are not ending. They're just on and on they go, and there's never a farewell. So D is a little, I guess, concerned. He's thinking some of these people are staying too long, overstaying their welcome. Well, here it is. I got a list of 5 bands that need to maybe call it a career. Just, maybe have this be their last tour, or get ready because you need to be quitting soon. All right. At number 5, Jefferson Starship, not to be confused with Starship. Okay. They're both out there. They're both doing the same material for the most part. I think Jefferson Starship, though, they're supposed to do material from the 60s and 70s, and Starship is supposed to do material from the late 70s moving forward, but both of them seem to be overlapping quite a bit, and it's confusing. Is this a Jefferson, or is this just a plane? Anyway, Mickey Thomas, he can still sing. He may not be the nicest guy on the planet, according to my interview with Stephanie Calvert, who was booted from the band because she didn't want to do the thing. And this was, 2-3 years ago? Anyway, if you're going to keep one of the two, you got to keep the Mickey Thomas Starship. The Jefferson Starship, I know they have Kathy Richardson. She's a great singer. And if they just channeled all the Grace Slick material, which is tough to do because then you don't have anybody who sounds like Marty Ballin. You got the old guy there, Freeberg, whatever his name is, and he's singing We Built This City, right, with Kathy Richardson. It's just not good. I did a standalone video about that, and it's just... Okay, so Jefferson Starship, you guys had quite a run, and the name ID is great, but either you need to recruit some people in who can replicate the sound of that band, or just, again, retire, call it a career. Okay, and number 4 is REO Speedwagon. REO Speedwagon. When the lead singer starts to look like Grandma Cronin, all right, and I like Kevin Cronin. I grew up listening to Kevin Cronin. Kevin, his longevity was impressive up until maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. And then the lyrics aren't going smoothly with the music. In other words, his timing is off. It seems like he's always trying to catch up with the song when he's singing. He had an appearance on one of those Idol shows, and I think they did Take It on the Run, and it wasn't good. And Kevin said he wasn't feeling well. He had a cold, and that's why it didn't go so well. In general, REO Speedwagon, they had a really great run. They're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is stupid. They have 0 original members. Their original keyboard player, Neil Dowdy, said sayonara probably early this year. And so technically they don't have any original members in the band. I know people think Kevin is an original. He's not. He's closest, right, to being an original member. But they're hanging on. I guess, if you have a few beers, again, I always say this, and the crowd is singing along to whatever song, you're going to think to yourself, this is the greatest concert I've ever been to, right? But, go back and listen to those live REO Speedwagon albums. There's one in particular from the 70s, which is just like, that's the way you do live music. And you compare that to what you're hearing now, and I think REO should probably call it quits. All right. At number 3 is Bon Jovi. All right. Bon Jovi. Now, they're not currently out on tour, and maybe they won't go back out on tour. At least I don't think they are. And the main reason that Bon Jovi should probably call it quits is John is really struggling. There's something happened. It's, I don't know. I mean, if he's going to be the lead singer, which he is, the band is named after him. It's Bon Jovi. It's not Sambora, right? And Richie isn't there anyway. Now, if Richie comes back and there's a reunion where Richie maybe helps out, maybe they get my buddy Johnny Gioeli to go out on tour with them and help out with the vocals. Go listen to Johnny Gioeli. He's the guy in Hardline. I've done videos with him and about him, and he loves it when I talk about him, unlike other people who hate it. But he could be in Bon Jovi, and then you'd have to change the name of the band to Bon Gioeli, which I think would work, honestly. I think it would be great. I'm a marketing genius, but if they're not going to do that, then it's time maybe to just pull the plug. I don't know if they will. It's huge name recognition, and they should have done it the last time, and they didn't do it. So they're probably going to keep going. At number 2 is Guns N' Roses. Guns and Roses. Every time I see footage of Guns N' Roses with Axl Rose, I cringe. I just cringe. Axl trying to be his younger self, it's impossible. It's just impossible. He, at that moment in his life, was such a crazy singer, a unique singer, and hitting every bizarre note and twisting. And there's so much stuff going on with those early records with Guns N' Roses. And you've got this high octane sound. And I like Guns N' Roses. I don't have a problem with them. Some people don't like Axl as a singer, to begin with, because he's not typical. He wasn't smooth or anything back in those days. In fact, he just reeked of anarchy. And now it's kind of like this Tony Bennett version of the anarchy, the late, great Tony Bennett. It's just not working for me. Slash is great. The music is pretty good overall. I guess if you can get past the vocals and thinking about those early records, which are so hard to duplicate now, maybe compared to some other bands, they're not so bad, but I hear it and I'm just like, oh man, I want to like this, but I just can't. I might actually like the Jefferson Starship better. Hence, that's why they're at number 2. At number 1 for me, this is for me now. It's, you make your own call. It's not Kiss because they're on their farewell tour. So I cut them some slack. If they weren't quitting, now if they renege on that and they decide to do another farewell, like, hey, we're still open to doing one-off gigs every week. Well, that's not a one-off gig. It's just a continuation of the, farewell tour, the end of the road. It's not the end of the road for Kiss, right? But if it is, then I'm keeping them off the list. If it's not, then they should be number one. And Motley Crue, the one I picked for number one, we can bump them to number two, and then we can leave Jefferson Starship alone for now. Okay, they're not like playing stadiums, right? Motley Crue is playing stadiums, and there's so much going on with the vocal tracks most likely being used. The drum tracks, which I've seen videos that they're using, and this is just not anything that should be out there at this stage. That's why they retired back in 2015, and that was the appropriate time to say, okay, we're done with this. But again, this documentary comes out, which apparently reignited their career. Certainly didn't do a lot for the Me Too feminist movement when that thing debuted. And I think it was Tommy Lee was, of course, apologizing, but then saying, I wouldn't change a thing. I'm sorry, but I'm just going to do this more. And then you go to one of these shows and it's like Sodom and Gomorrah, right? And it's the year of the devil. Don't forget about that. Motley Crue is not going away anytime soon, which is just not great news, I think. And Vince Neil, come on. Vince in the old days, again, he is a similar caricature of himself when you compare Axl Rose to his younger self. Some of this music just isn't designed for people who are getting older and who have to try to sing this stuff. It's just not. Hence, this is why you replace singers. And if you're not going to replace the singer because you want the name ID, you want name recognition, then you really compromise on what the music sounds like. And people are like, look, there's Axl. Look, there's Vince. And they're all happy to see their heroes from 30 or 40 years ago. But for me, that doesn't cut it. I'd rather see a band who is trying to sound like those bands did back in 1989 or whatever. That would be better. All right. But we're all just hung up on the original members. But if the original guys can't do what they used to do, then they either need to be replaced or retire. That's it. So number one, again, my list, number 5, Jefferson Starship. Number 4 is REO Speedwagon. Number 3 is Bon Jovi. Number 2, Guns N' Roses. And at number 1, Motley Crue. Now, you may have a different list. You could put together another top 5 with bands either that don't have any original members or are just hanging on too long. I think you've got the Eagles are on their farewell, and they've never been embarrassing out there. Really, they've never been like, oh, they shouldn't keep doing this. I don't think they would continue because they are, or at least Don Henley is kind of a perfectionist. So even at 75 years old, he doesn't sound that out of place singing these songs. He still sounds pretty acceptable. So yeah, of course. And Steely Dan should probably retire after this tour. They probably should get out while they can get out and not sound ridiculous. It's Donald Fagen, and his voice has changed a lot. It's changed a lot. And it's not the kind of music necessarily that you hear it as much as, say, listening to Sweet Child of Mine, but you definitely hear it. And, it's just difficult. I mean, there are guys that are really well preserved vocally that go out there. Paul Rodgers has new material, and he's not touring. Get out there and tour, Paul. Where's Bad Company? I mean, there's a viable old band and nowhere to be found. All right, great music found right here. Mitch Malloy, The Last Song, autograph copy, guitar pick, stuck to the CD. I tried to get it off of there, and I think it's supposed to just stay there. But Mitch Malloy, really a beast, could front a number of bands. Maybe REO Speedwagon, Mitch Malloy with REO Speedwagon. Maybe Mitch Malloy with Bon Jovi, although that might be more of a stretch. I'm sure Jefferson Starship could use a Mitch Malloy in the band, um, just to lower the average age of attendance. And he's 61, but I'm thinking people are going to think he's like 40. So I don't know if that's the solution, but my gut tells me, and Dee Snider thinks this too, that, okay, you're done. You had a great run. Invest your money well. You're done. I know you don't get the typical 401k, but maybe you invested some of this money and you can live comfortably off of it. Or maybe you could be an entrepreneur like Sammy Hagar. He's got all of these different brands out there with his name on them. I think that's the way to go. And just let us enjoy the music from the past and let the tribute bands take over, because I think they've got a handle on this, and that's going to be the future. They're everywhere. Where I live, you can go see a tribute band almost every weekend, and that's the future. But the brands continue. How long do they continue? It all depends. If they can still draw and make people buy tickets and fool people some of the time, if not all the time, then they'll keep going. The farewell tour will never end.